I buried my husband's brother at 71, strong man, worked the land his whole life, never complained once, but his blood was running too hard, too much pressure against walls that were quietly getting thinner, and nobody knew, not his wife, not his children, not him, until the morning he sat down at the breakfast table and didn't get back up. The doctor said his blood pressure had likely been dangerously high for years, and not one day of it did he feel it coming. That is what frightens me most about blood pressure. It does not warn you. It simply builds, quietly, steadily, like water behind a dam nobody is watching. And then one morning, the dam breaks. I have thought about him every single day for 23 years. Everything I'm about to share, I share it because of him. Let me tell you what the old women in our community understood about blood pressure, before I ever heard a doctor use the term. They called it hard blood. When the blood runs hard, they said, the heart works too hard to push it, and when the heart works too hard for too long, something eventually gives way. They were not wrong. Blood pressure is simply the force your blood exerts against the walls of your blood vessels as your heart pumps it through. Some force is necessary. Without it, the blood doesn't move and you don't live. But too much force, sustained over months and years, damages those vessel walls. It makes them stiff. It makes them narrow. It makes the heart muscle itself thicken from overwork. And it sets the stage for the things that kill people quietly and suddenly: heart attacks, strokes, kidney failure, vision loss. The frightening thing is not the damage itself. The frightening thing is that none of it hurts while it is happening. High blood pressure has been called the silent killer for a reason. There is no pain, no clear signal. You feel fine right up until you don't. And by the time you don't, the damage has usually been building for a very long time. In our community, we do not rely on machines to tell us how our blood is running. We rely on the way we live and the things we take into our bodies every single day to make sure the blood is kept clean and moving freely, and the vessels are kept elastic and open. And at the center of that practice, the thing the oldest women among us have relied on for more generations than anyone can count, is a simple herbal tea, 3 main herbs, prepared in a specific way, taken at a specific time, and taken faithfully, without skipping, without substituting, without deciding after a week that it probably isn't making a difference. I will tell you everything about it. But first I need to tell you about the things that are making your blood pressure worse right now, because the tea works with a body that is not being constantly pushed against. It cannot fully do its work if you are simultaneously doing the things that undo it. There are things that most people do every single day that are pushing their blood pressure higher and higher while they go about their lives completely unaware. I want to name them clearly because awareness is the first step toward change. Salt, but not the salt you think. Here is something important. We use salt in our community, liberally. We salt our food, we salt our preserves, we salt our butter, and we do not have the blood pressure problems you see in the outside world. The difference is the kind of salt, the white, fine, heavily processed salt that comes in a cardboard cylinder. That is not real salt. That is sodium chloride stripped of every mineral that was meant to accompany it. When your body receives that stripped sodium without the minerals that balance it, it pulls water into the blood to dilute it, and the volume of blood increases and the pressure goes up. Real salt, unprocessed, mineral-rich, the kind that is gray or pink or slightly brown from everything still in it, is handled differently by the body. The minerals that come with it help the body manage the sodium appropriately. We have always used the real kind, and it has always served us well. If you are eating a diet heavy in processed and packaged foods, you are consuming enormous amounts of that stripped sodium, far more than you realize, because it is added to almost everything in quantities that are hard to imagine, and it is pushing your blood pressure up every single day. Chronic tension. The body does not distinguish between the stress of being chased by a predator and the stress of financial worry or a difficult relationship or a job that never lets you rest. The response is the same, a cascade of signals that tells the body it is in danger, that constricts the blood vessels, that raises the heart rate, that pushes the blood pressure up. When this response is triggered occasionally, the body handles it and returns to normal. When this response is triggered constantly, as it is for many people living under the conditions of modern life, the blood pressure never fully comes back down. It stays elevated. Day after day, month after month, the vessels stay slightly constricted. The heart stays slightly too hard at work. We are not free of difficulty in our community. We know loss. We know hard seasons. We know disagreement and grief and worry. But we are not steeped in the constant background noise of the modern world, the news, the financial anxiety that is built into a life of debt and instability, the social pressures that come from a world that never stops comparing and demanding and measuring. We work hard. We rest fully. We know our neighbors and are known by them. We have a framework of meaning that holds us even when things are hard. And I genuinely believe, that this is one of the most significant reasons our blood stays calmer than most. Sugar and refined carbohydrates. Sugar does not just harm the joints. It does something to the blood vessels themselves. It makes them stiff, less elastic, less able to expand when pressure increases, and contract when it decreases. Elastic vessels manage blood pressure naturally. Stiff vessels cannot. Every meal heavy in sugar and refined flour is a meal that makes the blood vessels a little stiffer, a little less capable of doing what they need to do. Our diet has very little refined sugar and almost no refined flour. We grind our own grain. We bake with whole grain flours that still contain the germ and the bran and everything the grain was designed to contain. And our blood vessels, I believe partly because of this, stay elastic and responsive into very old age. Dehydration. When the blood is not diluted enough, when the body is running low on water, it thickens slightly. Thicker blood requires more force to pump. The heart works harder. The pressure goes up. This is simple physics, and it is something most people never connect to their blood pressure because the link is not obvious. Drink more water, plain water, not sweetened water, not coffee, not tea with sugar, plain water throughout the day, more than you think you need. This single change, made consistently, will affect your blood pressure in ways you will be able to measure. A body that never rests. Sleep, real, deep, uninterrupted sleep in true darkness, is when the body performs its maintenance on the cardiovascular system. The heart rate slows, the blood pressure drops, the vessels repair the small damages of the day. When sleep is consistently shortened or broken, or made shallow by light and screens and anxiety, that maintenance does not happen, and the system slowly degrades in ways that show up eventually as blood pressure that won't come down. Now I will tell you about the tea. It has been in our community as long as anyone can trace. The oldest women I knew as a young girl, women who had lived through things that would have broken most people, made this tea every morning as surely as they made their beds and said their prayers. It was not remarkable to them. It was simply what you did. I have made it every morning for over 50 years. I am 79 years old. My blood pressure, the last time it was checked, was something the nurse called textbook. She asked me what medication I took. I told her none. She looked at me as though I had said something impossible. It is not impossible. It is just faithful. The 3 herbs at the heart of this tea are hibiscus, hawthorn berry, and linden flower. Let me tell you about each one before I tell you how to combine them. Hibiscus is the one most people have heard of, though they often don't know why it matters for blood pressure. The deep red flower, dried and steeped, produces a tea that is tart and beautiful in color, and that has a direct, measurable effect on the tension in blood vessel walls. It helps the vessels relax, and when the vessels relax, the blood moves more freely, the heart doesn't have to push as hard, and the pressure comes down. Our grandmothers didn't know the mechanism. They knew the outcome. They knew that women who drank hibiscus tea regularly had calmer blood and lived longer. That was enough. Hawthorn berry is older in our tradition than almost any other remedy. We have grown hawthorn in our hedgerows and harvested its berries every fall since the community was first established. The old women called it heart medicine, not loosely, not as a figure of speech, but specifically and deliberately. They used it for everything to do with the heart, for hearts that raced, for hearts that stuttered, for blood pressure that ran too hard, for the grief and the shock that can hit the heart as suddenly as any physical blow. Hawthorn works on the heart muscle itself, strengthening it, making it more efficient, allowing it to do the same work with less effort, and it works on the blood vessels, helping them stay open and flexible and responsive. Taken over time, not in a single dose, not for a week, but over months of faithful daily use, it quietly does more for the cardiovascular system than most people would believe possible of a simple dried berry. Linden flower is the one most people don't know, and the one I want to speak about with the most warmth, because it was my grandmother's favorite, and she lived to 94 with a heart and blood as calm as still water. Linden, also called lime flower in some places, or tilia, grows as a tree, tall and fragrant, and in early summer produces small pale flowers that smell like honey and warm afternoons. We dry those flowers and keep them all year. They make a tea that is mild and sweet-scented, and that does something that the other two do not do as directly. It calms the nervous system. And the nervous system, as I have said, has more to do with blood pressure than most people understand. When the nervous system is in a state of alert, when the body is running on tension and worry and stress, the blood vessels stay contracted, and the heart rate stays elevated, and the pressure stays high. Linden flower speaks directly to that part of the body. It tells the nervous system that it is safe, that it can let go, that the vessels can open, that the heart can slow, and the blood can move with less urgency. Combined with the hibiscus and the hawthorn, linden flower completes something. The hibiscus opens the vessels. The hawthorn strengthens the heart. The linden quiets the system that was keeping both of them under too much strain. Together they do something whole. This is not complicated. I want you to hear that clearly, because people often assume that if something works well, it must be difficult to make. It is not. You will need 2 parts dried hibiscus flowers, 1 part dried hawthorn berries, 1 part dried linden flowers. Make a blend of these in whatever quantity you like, and keep it in a jar with a tight lid away from light and heat. A blend made this way will keep well for a year. Each morning, take 1 heaped tablespoon of the blend and put it in a cup or a small pot. Pour just boiled water over it, water that has just come off the boil, not water still at a rolling boil. Let it steep for a full 10 minutes, not 5. 10. The hawthorn berries in particular need time to give up what they hold. After 10 minutes, strain it. You will have a tea that is deep red, almost burgundy, from the hibiscus. It smells floral and slightly tart. Drink it warm. Do not add sugar. Sugar works against what you are drinking this tea to accomplish. If it is too tart for you plain, a small drizzle of raw honey is acceptable. But work toward drinking it plain, because as the body adjusts, the tartness becomes something you find yourself craving. It is the body recognizing what it is receiving and asking for more. Drink it every morning, before food if possible, or alongside a light breakfast. Give yourself 10 quiet minutes with it, not rushing out the door with it in hand. not drinking it in the car. 10 minutes of sitting and drinking and being still. That stillness is part of the medicine. Some women in our community make a second cup in the evening. If your blood pressure is a serious concern, an evening cup is a good practice. The linden flower in it will also help prepare the body and the nervous system for sleep. Beyond the 3 main herbs in the tea, there are others we keep in our tradition that support healthy blood pressure, and that can be added to the blend or taken separately depending on what is available and what the body seems to need. Garlic. Not in the tea, in the food, every single day, cooked into whatever is being made or taken raw if you can bear it. 1 clove, minced fine and stirred into warm broth or onto food after cooking so the heat doesn't destroy what makes it valuable. Garlic is one of the oldest cardiovascular medicines in any tradition. It relaxes blood vessels. It supports the health of the vessel walls. It keeps the blood from clumping and thickening in ways that drive pressure up. Our grandmothers added it to everything, not just for flavor, but for exactly these reasons, even if they described it in different words. Celery seed. Dried celery seed, ground or whole, added to cooking throughout the week. This one surprised me when I first learned why the old women valued it so much. It acts on the smooth muscle of the blood vessels, the muscle that determines how constricted or how open they are, and encourages them toward openness. Regular consumption of celery seed over weeks and months has a real effect on blood pressure that most people have never heard of. Add it to soups, to stews, to egg dishes, to anything savory. Motherwort. This one is stronger and more specific. We use it when blood pressure is a particular concern rather than as a daily tea for everyone. Motherwort is specifically for the heart, for hearts that race, for hearts that feel irregular, for the kind of high blood pressure that is driven by anxiety and tension rather than diet alone. A strong tea made from dried motherwort leaves, taken in small amounts, a 1/4 cup at a time, no more, has a calming effect on the cardiovascular system that is real and relatively quick. It is not a remedy to be taken carelessly, but it is one that has a specific and valuable role. Passion flower. For blood pressure that is driven largely by anxiety and sleeplessness, the kind that goes up in stressful times and is better in peaceful ones, passion flower is one of the most effective herbs I know. Made into a tea and taken in the evening, it settles the nervous system into a state where sleep comes more naturally and more deeply. And better sleep, as I have said, is one of the most powerful blood pressure medicines that exists. Passion flower helps you get there. Olive leaf. Not always easy to come by for everyone, but in communities where olive trees grow or where dried olive leaf can be obtained, it is worth obtaining. Steeped into a strong tea and taken daily, it has an effect on blood vessel flexibility and blood pressure that has been recognized in Mediterranean traditions for centuries. Our community came to it later than some others, but once we encountered it, it became a valued addition to our herbal practice. Part 6. What we eat for the blood. The tea does its best work in a body that is also being fed the right things. Let me tell you what we eat, what has been at the table in our homes for generations, that keeps the blood clean and the pressure steady. Beets. Every fall we harvest them by the bushel and store them through the winter, boiled and sliced with a little vinegar and salt, roasted until they are sweet and almost meaty, grated raw into salads when the weather is warm enough. Beets do something specific for blood pressure. They contain compounds that the body converts into a gas that tells blood vessels to relax and open. The old women didn't know the chemistry. They just knew that families who ate beets regularly seemed to have better color, more energy, and hearts that lasted. They kept planting them,